This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. Solitude, for most, is a very foreign concept. We are social creatures by design that crave interaction with others. We have a desire to partner up and create a team that we hope follows us for the rest of our lives. With good intentions and a loving heart, we find a compatible mate. The instant feeling of completion fills our souls and stabilizes our needs. What we believe is the last piece of the puzzle to create a solid future. Then, chaos ensues and throws this belief into confusion. Everything we believe is turned upside down, and we're left trying to make sense of what went wrong. We are given a bag of broken pieces that we must reassemble with no instructions. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Felice, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome Marcy Cowen to discuss the suffering of divorce. Marcy has gone through her trials and tribulations in the marriage world and come out on the other side a little bit cleaner. Not to mention, you're one of the few people who are open and honest about divorce, so thank you for coming in today.
Maybe a little too open and honest.
Well, there's almost a common thread in the room tonight.
Pretty much. But let's not dismiss the elephant in the room.
Again. The volcano.
The volcano, the hurricane himself, our special co-host, Mike DePalma. Mike, it's always a pleasure to have you in.
It's great to be here, and I do appreciate this thing.
Well, it's funny because everybody
Whoever did that, is that a filter?
Everybody from Hoboken has like a nickname or something, right? You got Mike the Hurricane, Mike the Volcano, Mikey Three Chins,
Mike the Lip.
It's going down. It's going down. The lip was a good one.
The lip was a good one. Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody, but we do trust Toyota of Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, go to toyotaofhackensack.com and they'll be able to help you out. So Marcy,
Mike actually stole a Toyota one time.
What? Huh? This has nothing. This episode is not about me and my.
I haven't seen you in a while.
I haven't seen
you in a while, so I feel bad.
And it's an honor to be next to Marcy.
not us.
No, I don't really like you guys.
Marcy, each week we take a question from one of our audience members, and some of the questions are a little out there, but this one was really good, and I chose this one specifically for you because we are talking about divorce today. And this one comes from Steve M., and it's not the Steve M. that both of you know. When is it time to call it quits? Now, this is a general question. In anything in life, there is a beginning and there is an end. When do you think it's time to give it up?
I would say when the children are being affected.
That's specific to divorce.
Specific to divorce,
yeah.
Correct. When the love is lost and you feel, if some people go through therapy, some people go through couples counseling, some people don't. I didn't have that opportunity, so I never went through that. But if they go through all that and it's just not working and you don't love each other anymore, then call it quits. Then be done with it.
It's a tough decision to make, especially when it's, okay, this is it. But it could be in anything in life. Mike, what do you think?
I think when it just gets overwhelming, it gets to the point where, it's not about the children, and it becomes personal.
What about like just something outside of divorce, say a job? Because you had to make the decision to end your career. You had to make a decision
before someone else made the decision for them.
Or you're like when you decide to call it quits on sanity. Like, how was that decision even made?
When it comes to the workplace, an occupation, a job, when the fun is gone. I experienced that as a police officer, and I used to love my job. I loved every day, and it just started to not be fun anymore. So
it's got some commonalities. Quitting doesn't have to be specific to divorce or a job. It's like I'm assuming that the love, the fun was all gone. Right?
Correct.
And it's time.
Assuming it was there in the first place.
This is going to be a fun episode. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Mike hit on it. When it's no longer fun. When it becomes like all consuming to you now, and you're dreading doing something, when you no longer take love out of it anymore. I always say, if you don't like running into a wall, stop running into a wall. If it's not fun anymore, then just don't do it. But you have to have a fallback plan.
It's like when your kids come to you and say, hey, my shoulder hurts when I do this.
Yeah, well, don't do it.
Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I punch him on the other arm, I guess the shoulder doesn't hurt anymore.
I mean, if you're no longer enjoying something, then, I mean,
I actually found it easier ending the divorce than I did some jobs that I've been at.
It becomes like a family.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, leaving the job, I mean, I left a few jobs for different reasons, but I felt that to be easier than leaving the divorce, or like for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was easier leaving my ex-husband, or he left me, whole story. That was easier ending almost than leaving the jobs, and vice versa sometimes. Like, different reasons for each.
but you know what? A divorce is more, you're in your comfort zone. You're used to going home to your house every day, and then everything's just uprooted.
Right.
You
True.
know, and believe me, I went through it, and it's a total life changer. I stayed probably a lot longer than I should have, because
You try to do what's right.
It was comfort. I stayed there because of the kids, and I grew up in a family with divorced parents. I knew what it was like to not come home to a father every day, and I never wanted my kids to go through that.
Yeah, I grew up not one person divorced in my family.
Same with me.
So it
Same
was
with
it
me.
was a shock. I
But see, I grew up on the opposite end, where my parents weren't divorced. They should have been.
Right.
They should have been. So, I when I read this question, I thought about it in terms, and I actually got kind of sad when I read this question, because I thought about it in terms of this show. Because eventually, it's going to come time, hopefully 10 years, hopefully 20 years, but eventually it's going to come time where this show is no longer a viable option. Nobody wants to listen to it, or however it is, and it's going to be time to call it quits. I started thinking, how am I going to approach that? Because I love doing this so much. I love when the lights come on and the cameras come on, and talking into the microphone, and whatever comes, those thoughts that just bounce out of our head. And it's going to be very
Those stupid things that I say. I'm going to have nobody to say them to anymore. I'm going to have nobody to piss off.
I'm going to call Mike up. I'll call him on the phone and I'll just say something stupid, but it's not going to be the same. But I imagine when it's time, it's time. It's like with our careers in law enforcement. It's time. But it's never going to be an easy decision. So, I can't answer. I think it's going to be when the love of it and the fun of it are gone.
But you know what, Kevin? I mean, getting back to that, though, with the show in general, I mean, how many times we call each other, got a great idea for a show?
Yeah, and
and you sit there and we start bouncing ideas off of each other. We could do it this way. We could do it that way. We no longer have this show. I may never talk to you again.
I'd be upset if I didn't talk to you guys.
That might be a good thing.
Very upset.
No, but listen,
I'd be real upset too.
the ending of anything is
what I'm
never easy, and it's never
All good things come to an end, we all say.
Yeah, one day we're all going to come to an end, and but that's going to be
It's
beyond our
awfully
control.
morbid of you.
Isn't it?
Unfortunately, paying taxes and death are the two certainties in life. Steve, thank you so much for sending that question in. I'm going to be thinking about that question. Thank you for keeping me up at night, and I'm going to be thinking about that question for a little while now.
It was a great question.
That was a great
That was-
question.
that was-
You can relate that to anything.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's when's it time to give it up? So I want our audience to chime in on that one. If you got an answer to that question, leave a comment below. We will answer it. And thanks for sending that in, Steve.
At least give us your ideas. I mean,
Yeah.
we're just getting 4 ideas here. People chime in and let us know. We could revisit that question another day.
That could be the social media question
Every
week, and we'd never run out of material on that one. So, Marcy, we've had a lot of discussions here, and I got to be honest with you. So, Mike and I came up with wow, it'd be great. Even though we all in this room have experience with divorce, nobody really seems too open to talk about the subject. And, it's a tough subject to talk about because it is somebody at one point you did or thought you cared about. There may be children involved. There may be collateral damage to whatever you say. So nobody was very willing to come forward. And we were talking about something different. We were talking about something with 3 acres. And, you had mentioned something about divorce. I'm like, wait, time out.
I
Stop.
talked about how Mike and I connected.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly
Very,
right.
very
Right.
true. A lot of similarities.
Yep.
And do you remember how I approached you on this subject? I said, stop. Whatever we're talking about, stop. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, you willing to talk about
And
your
you said you're
divorce?
willing to talk about it. I said, yeah, why not?
Yeah, because some people are very hesitant.
I understand why some people are hesitant. I've never been hesitant. For some reason. I really haven't. There kind of no reason. Like, I'm going through what I was going through, in my own way. And people didn't agree with it. Maybe they'd be like, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. No, don't tell me how to feel and tell me how to react to what I'm doing.
Isn't that great when outsiders tell you what you should be doing in your divorce? Every divorce is different.
Correct.
Every divorce is different. Oh, you
correct.
should do this. You should do it.
Exactly.
Well, I did this. I did that. Well, shut your mouth. I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, right. Maybe did that work for you? And if it did, great. And if it didn't, that's okay too. But like you said, every divorce is different.
Especially if you're speaking to somebody who has gone through a divorce, they feel like
They got to interject.
They have to interject, and they're not doing it out of malice at all. They're trying to help you through a very difficult time because I'm sure they remembered how difficult it was for them. Although I have seen some people who divorce wasn't very difficult. I think I know 2 or 3 people that got divorced for like $385.
Right. Well,
You see those signs all over, like divorce, $399.
Oh, right. Exactly.
You know,
Mine wasn't difficult for me other than financially.
Yeah.
That's the only way that it was bad for me. Emotionally, psychologically, all of that, I was happy as a lark, to be honest. I really was.
Before we get too deep into divorce, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
My name is Marcy. I am the property manager.
I think
you got that part.
We got that right.
That's right. I'm the property manager over at 3 Acres in Jersey City, which is where I met Mike.
Which we were just there on Sunday.
Yes, that's right.
And without giving a shameless plug, fantastic place.
it really
that place
is.
was
It
beautiful.
Did you give him a
is.
tour of the building?
Yes,
I
we
did.
did.
Oh,
Yes, we did.
good.
We met a bunch of different people. We met your artist, which
Good.
I'm a big fan of art.
Yes.
So we met your artist. He's got some amazing stuff in
And
there.
we love Johnny.
Yeah.
Like I said, that place has you don't have to leave that building.
Once the restaurant opens,
Yeah.
we really won't have to.
Your
leave.
restaurant, bar,
That's right. Everything.
pool up, up on the roof and everything. Fantastic place that is.
Once I found out he was a Salvador Dali fan, that's what connected me.
Oh,
to
that
him.
was it.
Yeah, because I have. You're going to find that I have all this worthless, useless knowledge in my head. And here was my useless knowledge about Salvador Dali. Well, Salvador Dali died with no legitimate children, had about an $80 million estate. And about 10 years after he died, somebody came out and said it was his daughter. Now they're in active litigation to try to dig him up and get DNA out.
What, are they going to ask him questions?
No, get DNA.
Oh, okay.
Right.
To get DNA to see if this is his actual heir because there's $80 million sitting
That's
there.
actually really interesting.
Yeah, that's again. How do I know that? I have no idea. Ask me what Mike's
Okay.
birthday is. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's in March. I think. Am I right?
You're right on
Mine
cue.
just passed.
There
I
you go.
didn't.
There
Either.
you go.
You just passed. That's right. I did know that.
That's right. 60 what? 2?
No.
3?
No, buddy, that's about your. That's about your level.
All right. Next question.
Wait, well, I got to go back to 3 Acres though. It is a great place, and the owners, and it's a family. They are fantastic people, and what we just spoke about quitting, the fun got out of my job. The fun was gone as a cop, but now here
We have fun every day over at
we
3
really
Acres.
do, and I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy going to work every day. I enjoy working together with Marcy and whomever else. Like it's.
Even
It
when
brought
we're
me
there,
back to life, and honestly,
But I'm his favorite, just so we're all clear.
you are my favorite.
'Cause
The owners are my favorite.
because you're his boss. That's why
Oh,
you're.
not really, but
You hear what he was saying about you the other day.
that's right.
No,
but,
it is. It's a great place.
Kev, even when we were there, like when we met with Nobby,
Nobby.
Oh yes,
he
yes.
just seemed like he was having a lot of fun. It looked like a
Yeah,
great
it's-
place to be and a great place to work.
And when he was reading through the log, look at this shim. That's what he was telling me. Look at this shim. Look what he does here.
That's a Hoboken guy.
Yeah, that's definitely a Hoboken.
He's a
term.
comp.
But
He is.
it's really beautiful. It's very peaceful. It's you really don't have to go out of the
You don't.
You
establishment.
don't. Right.
You can be self-encapsulated, which I don't know whether that's
Yeah, but I mean, during a couple of years ago, when people were working from home, they could have stayed right there. And
You know what?
did
We still
whatever
have a
they
lot of
wanted.
people working from home. If you walk through our building, like on a work day, they're in the quiet room, they're in the common areas, they're in the community room, because there's Wi-Fi there.
Yeah.
So they're all working there. There's a fair amount of people still. I was actually surprised to see that.
Yeah, they move from space to
That's
space.
right.
I noticed it. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
Mike does security from home, right?
But he looks at those cameras 24/7. He's on those cameras.
you get the
actually
cameras on
am.
your phone.
It's classified information. If I tell you, you know what has to happen.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Livingston, and I got married, moved to Pennsylvania.
How long? Wait, hold on. Oh God, you might already know my mother-in-law.
Oh.
I don't even want to. You don't ask a woman how old she is, but you probably know my mother-in-law.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe we should talk about that after.
Yeah, probably because that's well. So you went face to face with Satan if you did.
Well, you mean from Livingston?
Yeah.
Well, there's kind of a few. I'm not your typical Livingston girl. Let's be clear on that.
So you went with Chris Christie and Jason Alexander and
Jason Alexander's older than me, but he
Yeah.
went to my high school, yes.
yeah. No, it's not his real name. I know that.
Right.
Yeah, but so I was.
They're a little older than me.
I worked in Roseland,
Okay.
so I was right next door, and
Sure.
we always went to the 7-Eleven on midnights down on Livingston Avenue,
Of course.
and Panic's Towing, of course,
Yeah,
which
that's right.
Teddy Panic just passed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just passed.
Oh.
He did our towing for years.
Everybody went to Panics.
Of course, we all did too.
Yeah.
Panics was great, but Livingston was a great. So you had two groups in Livingston. It was an interesting. You had Jewish and Italian. That was it.
Pretty much.
That was it.
It's not like that now. But
No,
yes.
it's not.
Right.
No, it's
Right.
not. But the houses are also going for crazy amounts of money. Like they bought my my wife's grandmother's house. I think they paid like $600,000 for it and knocked it down.
Well, they're doing that all over the place.
Yeah. Now it's I think it's 1.2 or 1.3 million.
Right, and they probably have like 5 inches of grass.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah, it's not a huge lot.
Right.
It was only an extended bi-level on there before, so it's not a huge lot, but
Right.
you know, it's in a good section. So, but how'd you like growing up in Livingston?
I liked it. I didn't know any different.
Hmm.
Right, because I was there. I mean, I grew up there, and then I went to college.
You were at Livingston High School. Were you a Lancer?
Yes, I was a Lancer. There's only
Lancer.
one high school in Livingston.
You could have went to a Catholic school up that way.
That's true, but I'm not Catholic, so I
Yeah, I wasn't
No, you
Catholic
didn't have
either.
to
I
be.
went to Catholic high
I was
school.
going to say you didn't have to be Catholic to go to Catholic.
I went to
Well, that's
Catholic-
true, actually.
I went to Catholic high school with a lot. Are you Jewish?
I am.
Okay, I went to Catholic high school with a lot of Jewish people.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
I have very good friends from Pennsylvania whose kids all went to like a Catholic, Episcopalian school, I think, or something.
Right.
Jesuit. Like St. Peter's Prep is a Jesuit school.
That's Jesuit. Yeah, I see. I knew some Jesuit priests. I did know them. You're waiting for the worthless now. Okay, Jesuit priest.
I'm just staying silent right
A
now.
Jesuit priest took me away from my faith originally.
I went to
in college.
Hudson Catholic High School, St. Peter's College. I get it.
PETA.
Yeah, St.
St.
Peter's
Peter's.
College.
That's that round bread.
Seton
that you
Hall
put stuff in
University.
it?
St. Peter's.
I have a lot of education.
St.
behind
Peter's
me.
College is Greek.
But my
Right?
most
the
Right.
pita bread.
The
That's
pita
right.
bread. That's
Yeah.
right.
the
St.
education comes from the streets. That's where I'm most
Your
knowledgeable.
education comes from the Suffering Podcast. Are you kidding?
I think you should get a refund on that education, bud.
That's just not right.
So from college, where'd you
So
head
I
then?
went to college in D.C. Then I moved back home when I graduated college.
Catholic University?
At Catholic
that?
University. That's right. Not too far away. I went to American University.
Okay.
So I moved back home. I had a job, and I was dating my now ex-husband at the time. We met in college. So it was the long distance thing. He was in family business. So when we got married, I moved to Philly. I was on the fence about moving to Philly, but I was ready to get out of Livingston at that time.
Parts of Philly used to be nice.
What's that?
Parts of Philly used to be nice.
Yeah, there's still some parts that are decent. So I moved there, and we got married and had our children.
You were young when you got married?
I was 25.
Okay.
Young-
Well, that's not too young.
Young and stupid, as I say. Seemed like a good idea at the time. There are
That's
lots
what
of
I
reasons
say.
why I shouldn't have gotten married to him.
Okay.
Not shouldn't have gotten married, but shouldn't have gotten married to him.
So when you meet this guy, you obviously fall in love with this guy, or what you think is love. Okay.
Well, better said.
Okay. What you think is love. What was your concept of love when you met your ex-husband?
I had no idea.
Okay.
None. It seemed like a good idea at the time. We had two groups of friends.
Well, did you base it on your parents' marriage?
I should have because, my parents were married 50-something years.
Wow.
So, and still in love, still happy, the whole thing.
disgusting.
Yeah. They make those people
Right.
make me sick.
So I didn't know what love was. Is how, listen, hindsight's 20/20. I'm sure you guys
Sure.
experienced that too, right? So you realize a lot of things when you get divorced about the marriage, all the red flags, and there were tons. We had two sets of friends. One set that got married when I did, and then there was another set that got married like 5 or 6 years later.
Well, the funny thing about marriage is it's an institution that the current statistic is 50% of all marriages will end in divorce. And as you get older, that statistic drops. That's a general statistic.
Right.
But if I was sitting down at a blackjack table and I know that I had a 50% chance of losing a bet, you might think twice about making that bet. You probably still make the bet,
Right.
but you put a little bit more thought into it. But, you're young and you're idealistic.
I never dated anybody else. I had dated, he was the only one. I mean, like in high school, we went out as groups. A couple people had boyfriends and girlfriends
I
or
was gonna
whatever.
say, so this is like a first boyfriend, like
pretty
first
admirable.
relationship thing.
Yeah, that's
I
pretty great.
I would say it was. I mean, there was obviously people before that, but I wouldn't call it a relationship, quote unquote. It was like the first thing. And I ended up, giving him an ultimatum, which was kind of interesting.
Marry me or leave.
Well, yeah, we're going to do this now or I'm moving on. So we see how it ended up, right? So we met in college. I moved back to Jersey. He was back in Philly in family business. So here's red flag number one.
Well, what was the initial thing that attracted you to him?
I thought he was handsome. He was Jewish, which is something I was looking for. He seemed fun. He, came from what I thought was a decent family. I don't know. Like, how many factors do you really look that far into?
There's no checklist for marriage,
But that's
No.
I mean, you may be good looking, Jewish, good family, but really,
And my standards now have changed.
But
I know because you hang out with Mike a lot, so they had to change a lot.
So I'm interested in the Jewish thing because I hear this across the board, not just with Jewish people. I'm interested in why the Jewish thing because I grew
Because
up,
of the children.
I grew up around a lot of Italians, and Italian parents always wanted their Italian children to marry Italian women or Italian men, and it's never what they expected. And what was the, you said because of the children, because of the
That's
religion?
one thing. Well, right. Because in the Jewish religion, the mother's Jewish, so the children are automatically Jewish. But, you want the Jewish customs, depending on how religious you are. I mean, I practice things, but I'm not super religious. But you want to do all the holidays and everything else with both families. So if it's a different religion, then, there's enough problems in marriage as it is, right? That you can encounter without even having the religious difference. Yeah. So if you have the
Fighting
religious
over
difference,
religion, yeah,
fighting exactly. So you're already starting, with problems with like, what are we going to do with the kids? Are they going to celebrate everything? There are people that do that. I was not okay with that. I was not okay to have a Christmas tree in my house. I'm Jewish. I grew up Jewish, So, I mean, was that the most important thing? No. If he were not Jewish and I fell in love with him, would I have married him? Probably. I don't know how thrilled my parents would have been, but, I may have. I don't know. I mean, now it doesn't matter. I could care less if someone's Jewish or not.
But it's it's as time moves on, you become a little bit wiser because I've told this before here. My family's in this country because of religion. Mm-hmm. My great grandfather was Methodist. My great grandmother was Catholic, and in Ireland, you didn't do that. That was bad. So they immigrated, they got married, and they did their thing. And the old man dies when some of the kids were super, super young. So anybody that was 12 and under, they were switched to Catholic. The ones that were older were still Protestant. And that was never, ever discussed at family gatherings. Never. Politics is a different story. God, politics was awful. But religion was never brought up because they knew it was a sore subject with, especially with their parents, their children. It was never a conflict.
Right.
So
it's a conflict in lots of Jewish families.
Yeah.
I mean, some, I guess, don't care. I mean, everyone I've been surrounded by in my whole family, they cared. I mean, I have a cousin who married someone not Jewish. He's the favorite cousin in the family. So, it was important to me all those years ago. I mean, and I was really more attracted to Jewish guys.
You want to hear a real funny Jewish story?
Sure.
I'm going to tell you a real funny Jewish story. So one of my wife's cousins married a Jewish guy who ends up being a rabbi. Really good friend of mine. Okay, super good friend of mine, great guy. And my wife and I at the time, we weren't very religious. And so we wanted him to marry us. Now her 88-year-old Italian Catholic, Roman Catholic grandmother thought, she started crying.
Oh,
and this is somebody that's in the family. She started crying. She says, "You're going to be Jewish."
Oh, my God, really?
I
That's
swear.
funny.
I swear to God. And we ended up...
me singing dreidel, dreidel, dreidel every day.
I mean, it's not like we're going to be crushing the glass saying l'chaim. It's, but that's what she thought, and that's the archaic way of thinking
Right.
of the older generation.
Absolutely.
That, but neither here nor there. So that was the first thing.
Is
that
it
you-
archaic or is it ignorance? You know what I'm saying? People
I think
don't
it's ignorance, lack of
people-
education.
Yeah, exactly. Lack of education. People don't open themselves to other religions. They only think that, hey, I'm Catholic, everybody should be Catholic.
But that generation is very different.
Yeah.
Well, old
when it
old
comes
school
to-
Catholics used to think that if you were anything but Catholic, you didn't believe in Jesus.
Yeah,
I'm not.
exactly. Yep.
So
Oh.
I
Well,
can
that's-
definitely
that's
relate to
different.
this. What you're talking about. My ex was Jewish, and I am Catholic.
She still
so-
is Jewish, no?
No,
She
listen,
still is Jewish.
I consider her. Well, I'm not going to comment
Well,
anymore.
I-
I need to refer to someone I know. I think.
So one of my good friends, I told is a pastor of he's the head of Every Nations Church. He's a Christian pastor who was raised Jewish. Believe it or not, that's Ron Lewis. He was raised Jewish, and converted and everything. But I told him this story, and this is the truth. My father, I was messing around with my father one day. I said, Jesus was a Jew. And
Jewish carpenter.
And he goes,
That's right.
He goes, no, he wasn't. He was Christian. I go, what? What did she just say? I said, he's a Jew. What are you talking about?
That's right.
But anyway, so what else did you find attractive about him? Did he have a certain personality that drew you in, or was it
Yeah,
just
he was funny.
yeah?
I mean, he seemed like a good, wholehearted guy. I mean, I since learned later that's not the case. But listen, it seemed like a good idea at the time is what I kind of always say, because, the first group was getting married. And, I knew I eventually wanted to get married and have children. It was very, very important to me to have children. Like, I knew I'm very maternal. I can tell you that. I'm very maternal. I wanted to have kids. And it seemed like this was the natural progression. So we had been dating for, a couple years in college, and then we were long distance. We figured if we could, I was supposed to move to Philly when we got engaged. Red flag number one. I didn't. Then we got married. I moved to
Did you
Philly.
not move there because, trepidation?
I did not move there because I just didn't feel like it. I was busy having fun with my friends in New York.
Yeah.
And, most of my friends graduated from college and moved into the city. So I was busy, gallivanting with them like any 20-something does.
Right.
And which leads me to, my ex-husband was working every other Saturday. He was in family business. So you would think every other Saturday that he was working or that he wasn't working, that I'd be running to Philly to see him, or he'd be running to me to see me. And I was not running to Philly. And I felt, there were times where I had plans with my friends to go into the city, and it's like, so that was another red flag.
I was gonna say, that's
again,
a red flag
hindsight,
right
red
there.
flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So lots of the red flags have emerged since, I've been divorced, but
But you don't realize that when you're going through it.
no, not at all.
No, you got blinders on.
I didn't
because
think there was anything wrong with it. I'm like, look, my friends are gonna be in the city. That's where I want to be.
you think that things are going to, because you're looking for this missing piece.
Mm-hmm.
We all are. We're looking for that missing piece of the puzzle in our lives.
Right.
And you seem to find it, or what you think you found it. You end up getting married. The wedding had to be fun. I've seen wedding crashers. Even when it's bad, it's good.
My wedding was spectacular. I will tell you, it was amazing.
I always like the Jewish wedding with the breaking of the glass, because what it symbolizes, may your marriage last as long as it takes to put the pieces of the glass back together.
Mm-hmm.
Your glass wasn't broken
Right.
enough.
What glass?
What glass? But I've also seen the glass go through people's shoes.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. But so was the food any good?
The food was delicious
See, Jewish weddings, I've been to several of them.
because they were kosher. Mine was not kosher.
Oh, the food is awful.
Matzo,
Because they
matzo
were-
balls, gefilte fish.
Right. Well, those foods actually, when it's kosher, it's typically not that great. Mine was kosher style, so we had no shellfish, but it was not kosher.
Yeah, I think I ate challah bread. That's all I remember
Right.
eating, because the rest of it was
believe
like, what
food
is
was
that?
delicious.
Looks like Alpo or something.
It was at Headquarters Plaza in Morristown.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
Very
it was
nice.
very nice.
So then, when the wedding got boring, go watch a movie.
Right, there you go. That's right.
They were bougie.
So you have your children.
Livingston, thank you. Sorry.
Exactly.
So you had your children. Did you wait to have children? Did you enjoy your marriage a little bit, or did you jump right into having children?
We were married for, I guess, 3. I had everything very scheduled. I knew exactly when I wanted to have kids. I knew how far apart I wanted them, and I got both of those things. So we were, I guess, 3 years we were married. But he was working all the time.
And this is in Philly.
This is in Philly.
Yeah.
I thought that was normal. There's a lot that went on in our marriage that was wrong, again, in hindsight, that I thought was normal and I thought was right.
Give me an example.
He was working every weekend.
Okay. Was that indicative of something, or was he a workaholic?
I was going to say, was he actually working, or just tell you who's working?
Well, he was in the family business, and he didn't want to turn his father down. He was working with his father, and he didn't want to say, like, no, he couldn't. You know, he was just doing that, thinking he's building a future for us. So that was that. There was, I don't remember, I think the first year, I would say I enjoyed. And after that, I don't remember. Like, I don't remember liking it, hating it, being so happy with him, being miserable. I don't remember any of it.
Well, what was one thing that really got under your skin?
His third chin.
Like, it's I can't even
I'm trying so hard not to say anything in reference to this subject. I'm really serious. I'm really
at that picture. Drew, you got to take that picture down.
no. Just
I
leave
love
there.
it when he's just coming in from the side.
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, Drew, could he move? Like, could you put him in different spots?
What was one thing that really, like, the first thing that
hurricane once
really
in a while.
got under your
He
skin?
was a horrible communicator. It was like a wet blanket. Like, he didn't talk about anything. He didn't talk about how he was feeling about anything. He didn't talk about what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go, none of that.
See, that's a big female versus male thing. Like
Sometimes,
women,
yes.
Yeah, women always want to communicate, and sometimes we just can't.
Guys just want to shut down.
I'm not defending him.
Listen,
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, sometimes I don't want to talk
I don't want
about stuff.
confrontation.
How about-
I just want to like disappear sometimes.
It's not the confrontation. I'm talking about having like a normal conversation. Like,
Agree.
you know what? Where do you want to go for dinner this weekend? I don't know. Like, this is your town. You
You
figure
just
it
picked
out.
out the worst conversation to have with your wife ever. Where do you want to go eat? I don't care. Wherever you want to go. Well, how about tacos? No, I don't want that.
Listen, if the five of us were going to go out to grab something to eat tonight, we'd sit here for 20 minutes and say, where do you want to go?
Nah, we go to the Grand Saloon, real simple. Grand Saloon, 940 Van Houten Avenue,
I'm
Clifton.
starving.
Yeah, since starving.
Stop.
Yeah.
No R in that.
I'm starving.
No, I was talking
Let's
to
get
Kevin.
back-
I
let's
wasn't
get
talking
back
to you. I was
to
talking to Kevin.
I can multitask.
So bad communicator.
He was a horrible communicator. Correct.
And was there ever any infidelity or any abuse or anything like that?
There was not. I was accused of infidelity, and he went to great lengths to try to prove that, and he failed.
Okay.
So
Well, you sounds like with the scheduling you had, you held that institution of marriage very sacred.
I did. I mean, I wanted to be married. And again, I realized like almost all of it, I realized after the fact. And I'm like, oh my God, remember that? Like when he was doing this or he was doing that, I'm like, why didn't I see it? And I think it was probably because I didn't want to see it.
No,
That
We
was
didn't
my
want to
thing.
believe it.
Were you working
Well,
through
yeah.
were you working through your whole marriage?
I was not. So I worked for a little bit in the beginning when we were married, and then we bought a house, which is where we had both of our children. I was working a little bit here and there, and then when I had the kids, I was not working. I was a stay-at-home mom.
I think a mother should stay at home and raise their kids anyway. I don't.
Listen, you know what? It's the hardest job I ever had.
Yeah,
I'll be
without doubt.
honest with you.
Why don't you just say if your wife has a broken leg, the sandwich maker's broken? God, man, that is.
No, I'm just saying, no, a stay-at-home mom. I would rather have nobody raise my kids but their mother.
Well,
I don't want-
that's the thing.
I mean,
No, I
I
don't-
kind of agree with that. When my younger went to preschool, when he went to elementary school, I wanted to go back to work. I was like, let me just do something part-time. I felt, if I want to buy something for myself, I shouldn't feel guilty. Which I did sometimes. Like if I wanted to buy something, I'm like, you know what? I'm not contributing. Oh, no, you stay home and take care of the kids.
Well, that was the choice with my wife and I. Like when we decided to have children, a discussion was had. It's okay. Here's how because some mothers don't want to stay home with their kids. Some mothers
Agreed.
they would rather go work. And I told her, I said, okay, so if you want to go work and this is what you need, I'll make it work. We'll make it work with the kids as far as daycare or whatever it is. But ultimately, we sat down and looked at the numbers. Her salary would be going to pay for the kids' daycare.
all day. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yep.
So it's a wash. So what's the point?
And somebody else is raising your kids.
Right.
So I broke my ass so she could raise the kids until they were old enough to go to school. And then she started to get back to it.
I mean, if anything, if they wanted to work, it's peace of mind for them to get them out of the house, you know?
Right.
Because, I mean, how many times did you go to work and you go home and your kids are there and your wife says, I've been home with the kids all day.
Here,
They're
you
yours."
take them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because they needed a break.
Right.
And it is
That's true.
hard. That is a hard job.
It's a very hard job.
Yeah, without a
It
doubt.
is. But it was the best job I ever had. I'll tell you that. I don't have one regret for 1 second about having my kids staying home.
I don't like those messy diapers. I'm done with them. Oh, got it.
I don't know. They didn't. I guess because maybe when you're a mother, it doesn't bother you.
I
don't know.
I was the first one to change both of my kids' diapers.
So was I, and I
So was
hated.
I didn't mind it at all.
I didn't do too many
Not
the poopy diapers.
No,
Not that I was into the
I mean,
shit, but
I'd still take like the
know,
chocolate.
I felt like,
I'd still
listen,
take the chocolate pudding. And go look
that's
what
one of
happened.
those things where everybody has this stereotypical thing that men don't want to do that. You know, I didn't. I dove right in. You know,
Head first.
well, not so much that, but
How do you keep your hair back?
yeah, I know that's like this.
So when did it start? When did you start to see it going really downhill? How old were the kids?
So we separated when they were 9 and 12.
Wow.
Tough age.
Living separately, or in the same house.
No, we were living in the same house. I'll be completely honest. He thought I was cheating on him. Tried to prove it in lots of different ways. And because in Pennsylvania, I don't know if it's the same in New Jersey. So I represented myself in my own divorce.
It's amazing.
In Pennsylvania, yeah, it was a lot.
Pro se.
Pro se,
No,
that's
I
right.
truly understand.
Yeah, it's a lot. So we've talked about this like a lot before. I'll be like, oh, you're not going to believe, here's something that happened to me.
Talk to a friend of mine.
What's that?
You talked to a friend of mine.
I did talk to your friend, right? That's right. Sorry, my bad.
Friend.
Let me
That's
guess. He
right.
was from Hoboken.
That's right. You know what? He did security at our building. That's funny. He looked just like you. So in Pennsylvania, so he tried. If you get, he wouldn't have had to pay me as much in alimony or spousal support. It starts at. He wouldn't have had to pay me as much if he could prove adultery.
Yeah, adultery.
And what made him think that you were an adulterer?
Because I was doing things that were inappropriate.
Okay.
I did not cheat on him. I did not do what he told people I was doing. I mean, I don't know how blatant you want me to get.
You can get as much as you feel comfortable with. Let's put it that way.
All right. So he told people, everybody, all of our friends, including my parents, that I was giving guys blowjobs in cars. And that I was sleeping with them in cars and I was just like meeting them randomly and doing that.
Should have
Was
told
that
no.
just was that
hotel.
just for money? Was that his objective?
He was doing that because he's a narcissist and a certifiable narcissist. I know a lot of people throw that term out like all the time. I actually did a lot of research on it and I've spoken to people about it. And there's 12 characteristics of a narcissist. He has 9 with a possible 10. So that's enough for me.
Did he have any?
He's the victim. That's what it was all about.
always.
He was trying to prove to everybody that he was the victim and I was awful and I was,
The woe is me syndrome.
that-
The woe is me.
Well,
Look.
he's the king of the woe is me syndrome.
Well, believe
That's
me,
right.
I went through it.
Did he have any trauma as a child?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because a majority, it happens more frequently than not. Narcissism comes from trauma. And again, I'm not excusing his behavior whatsoever, but narcissism usually comes from trauma because it's a defense mechanism.
Right.
Where that's how you have to make the world around you make sense by relating everything to you. Mm-hmm. Like,
And that you're always the victim.
no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Mike, take care of him.
Don't poke the bear, please.
It's just going to keep poking.
I'm gonna wind up in court on like Friday or something.
No, you're not, Mike. Stop.
No, we wouldn't allow it. We wouldn't allow it. You're the color commentary.
No, you know what though? I have to like interject here. I really think it's fantastic that you are speaking about it, And I know a lot of people we're kind of talking in, code here, but I pretty much, I went through a lot of similar stuff that Marcy went through, and mine is so impactful. I actually hesitate or not fear, but speaking about what I want to speak about. So
You're gun shy.
like serious. I really am. You know, it's a very very rough situation, and
You're also
you know,
in a very different stage than I'm in.
True,
You know what I'm
true.
saying?
And,
I mean, I've gone through all this already.
and a lot of times, like even when I do come on here,
You hold back.
I hold back on so much, and that's so impactful in my life. You know,
Which
that
is a shame
I can't,
that you
right.
have to do that.
It's anything I say or do, or it's incredible. You know,
Well, you have to be careful. You're especially in a divorce setting or a separation setting that you don't overstep your bounds because you don't want to interject something that's going to give fuel to the other party.
and not to take away from what you went through, but what I went through and my story in regards to this is, it could be 2 or 3 shows, and I'm not even using the Hoboken stretch. Like it's financially crippling, it's emotionally crippling,
It's financially crippling.
And when I tell you
that part,
when it comes to the courts and lawyers and it's there's so much.
I don't know how it is in Pennsylvania, but I do know in New Jersey it's very slated against the men. It really is.
195%. And another thing,
it's slated against the men.
Against
Yes,
men.
Yeah.
yes, it
So
is.
in Pennsylvania, it's more equal.
Divorce laws in New Jersey are women's laws.
and
Domestic violence laws
right.
are women's laws, and
this is these things were specifically told to me by lawyers and so forth. And the reason why I never really speak or never really come out is the love of my kids.
But you know what
I
what
I love them more than myself.
You know what the sad part is? It muddies the water between right and wrong. If the man is wrong in the divorce, okay, it should be heavier. They should hammer the man a little bit. If the woman is wrong in divorce, it's right or wrong. It's not what gender you are. You
Well,
follow me?
usually both are wrong.
in some respect.
Right.
Yeah.
True, true.
Both people have done stuff wrong. I mean,
Correct.
I admit it. I did stuff that was wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? I did stuff that, probably could have impacted me worse than it did, but I was able to
was that
defend
the car
myself.
thing you were talking about before?
But you're always fearful of your kids hearing that damaging language.
Well, that's the whole thing. And my ex-husband told my kids a lot of things that he shouldn't have.
Well, that's their
So,
weapons. They weaponize kids.
Yes, correct.
And that's one thing I never did.
Which is the one. No, you didn't, and thank God for that.
I
but
never.
That's
It would
narcissistic.
never come out of my
Thank you.
mouth.
thank you. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Though, when you're fighting a battle, though, if you've ever been in a real street fight,
I can say I have not.
I have been in plenty of street fights.
Jewish girl from Livingston.
Thank
They
you.
don't fight.
No, we
I'll
fight with
be
our
hon-
mouths, not with our bodies.
I'll let something out on this show. When I'm in a street fight, I'm a ball grabber.
Okay.
I'll grab somebody's balls and I'll hold on to them as tight as I can. All right, with my teeth if I have to.
Well, you do
Because
what you have to do.
I fight-
I'll
obviously.
unleash on people.
I'll fight dirty.
Oh,
and,
boy.
And a lot of it, and I'm relating this, a lot of it goes towards divorce.
Right.
Two people
true.
who are very hurt, who are just their lives are scrambled around. They're hurricane themselves, and they're doing anything they can to survive, to win. And for that,
It's not even about that. And what we discussed before, there's 2 things that at this point in my life, there's 2 things. I was just involved in some other thing dealing with courts and my kid, whatever it was. And there's one thing I said, this is all my fault. It really is. I picked her.
see,
I
No.
picked her.
Mike.
See,
No,
that's
listen.
the thing. That's the thing that gets me about divorce, though.
Mike,
these are two.
please.
These are two
No,
people.
you know how I am. I'm honest. I'm open. Like
These are 2 people who loved each other enough at one point
That you
to
picked
get
each
married.
other.
Listen, that's another show. Like these are things.
Like you
I
picked
get
each
your
other.
point.
How could
But
you
that-
think anything other than that?
that's the
She
collateral
could have
damage.
said no.
I cut my cast off that day. That could have been totally different. So that was
That's collateral. So that's the collateral
That could've-
damage of divorce. You become very self-deprecating. Mike, you're the king at self.
Yeah.
Look that one up. Self-deprecating.
Deprecating. Yeah,
So-
write that
Yeah,
down.
write that down.
Kevin?
At the end of the thing that we learned today, Mike doesn't know what self-deprecating means.
No, I get it. No, listen,
There's also the self-sabotage.
Right,
Because
no.
you don't deserve anything good. I know.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I'm to that point in this.
I
it's
did
going
not
on,
go through that.
It's going on like, what is it?
But-
2014, 15. It's going on like 6 years, and then it turned. I'm just like, listen, I'm done. Go live your life. Just that's
But
it.
you, at some point, you become very introspective, and you look inside yourself like, what did I do wrong? What is wrong with me that this is happening? Because
That's true.
I hate to tell you, at some point in your divorce, and I know it happened to you at some point, you become a narcissist because you think everything relates to you, when in reality, probably wasn't the right person for you in the beginning. It's not like you lost something. It was never there.
And the way these lawyers,
And I believe that's true.
Good
I don't
mother
think
of
I should
God.
have married him to begin with.
Right.
I agree.
So you
But now, how long were you married, though?
15 years.
wow, I was married 15 minutes.
What's that?
No, how much? 15 minutes. I was
I
married.
was, I was married for 25 years.
Wow,
I've been
that's
divorced
amazing.
almost as long as
you've been
I was married. Almost.
So you have that hindsight, though, which is now you can see everything from the top of the battlefield.
Crystal clear. I mean, and I've evolved since I first divorced, right? I mean, things were messy.
So how messy did the divorce get?
Oh my God, we were in court every 5 minutes. And it did. If I owed $100 for the dentist and I didn't pay it because I couldn't afford it because I wasn't working, he left me with nothing. He cut me off of his income, took my car with my children. I had my children with me. He went to live with mommy and daddy for a year, had to pay no bills or anything. And what was I going to do? My father had a co-sign for a car for me because his credit was horrible in the beginning. It was bad when we got married. And it got worse as time went on because he made some really bad business decisions, which again is probably another show. And I knew it, but I didn't know it.
As half a joke, I tell people who are getting married, I said, "Did you check their credit? Because you
Right.
inherit it."
Right, because it's going to go down probably.
Yeah.
So right, if it's bad now, forget it.
Yeah.
So my credit was excellent when we got married, and then once we got divorced, that's it. I mean, we had a ton of debt, which of course he blames on me. We were upside down in the house, which of course he blamed on me. We shouldn't have bought that. We bought a big house on an acre with a pool. It was a beautiful house. We renovated the entire thing, and he blames it all on me. Mm-hmm. Told my parents that. Well, I bought the house for her. Really? Are you not living here with our children? Like, what do you mean you bought it for me?
Yeah, exactly. Where was he sleeping, in the car?
He should have been sleeping in the car.
There's so
We'd
many
probably still be married if he was sleeping in the car.
So many similarities in this
Oh,
story.
it's-
It's
Yeah.
we speak and it's like
Every
wow.
divorce is different, but they're all similar.
Yeah,
True.
true.
All similar.
Yeah, two people who hate each other.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down
And
to.
they're fighting for every last penny.
Now, you
He would drag me into court he would literally, so we both started off with attorneys. I had mine for 3 months, and we ended up going to court on one particular day. He had filed contempt because I stopped paying the mortgage. Now, there's a reason I stopped paying the mortgage because I called the mortgage company and I said, listen, I want to go through a short sale. What do I need to do? You need to stop paying the mortgage for 3 months straight in order to even be considered for us to accept any offers. So that's what I did.
It's so like different worlds, but when I tell you, it's when we speak, it's like Mike, try to, it's amazing, Like she said about the $100 for, insurance, whatever it is. I had to go to court because I had a shirt on 49 plus 1 with a middle finger. So
Well, that's a little
and Mickey
different.
Mouse in the middle.
well,
And a Mickey Mouse on it.
Oh, don't get
Right,
into
well,
the
the
Mickey Mouse thing, please.
they know all about it.
We know all about
So
them.
do I. Let's not.
Well, you know what though? In essence, to that was years ago, and there's still motions and masquerades of motions about that. Like these lawyers, they make you out to be I'm like the Iceman, like
lot
Ted
of-
Kaczynski. Like it's getting ridiculous now. Like
Ted Kaczynski. Richard
I don't care
Kuklinski
who he
was
is.
the
'Cause
Iceman.
now the hurricane's coming out. Now you're gonna get the best of me.
So,
Let's get back to Marcy,
but
please.
at some point, the divorce.
I got into court
Yeah.
this one particular time. This is when we got rid of our attorneys. So he was basically filing constantly with all kinds of money stuff, knowing full well that I couldn't afford it. This stuff for the kids. I mean, he made it seem like I was out buying fur coats every 5 minutes, which
probably
clearly,
tactical that he did that.
right. I all of it. I mean, we both had attorneys. This particular case, we get into court, And my attorney says to me, you're in contempt. And I said, well, okay. I said, yeah, what does that mean? I knew nothing at this point. I didn't know about divorce. I knew nothing about it. Like Mike, like nobody in my family had ever been divorced. I knew nothing about it. So and I had to educate myself to represent myself. But we get into court and he says, well, what should I do? He says, well, they can, this is my attorney. They can throw you into jail. So who should I call? I said, you should call my father, who's an attorney, and you may want to call my cousin, who's a circuit court judge. They can probably help. Isn't it your job to not have me put in jail?
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, man.
I thought I was going to lose it. So we go, and of course the judge is like, I'm not throwing the mother of children when she did what she was supposed to do. So nothing happened. It was basically like, not even a slap on the wrist. It was kind of like, why are you bringing this to my court and wasting our time?
That's an attorney move. So they inundate you with stupid stuff.
Yep.
All
Just
right,
to get you to keep coming back to court.
Because if you're spending time on that, it's like a magic show. And a magician, when he's doing a trick over here, he wants you to look over here, but he's really doing the trick over here.
And my father's an attorney who did a lot of divorce. So on top of it, and he knew that. In New Jersey, granted, not Pennsylvania, where the laws are very different, so we've discovered. But, at that point, we got rid of the attorney. So it got to the point where we were filing each other. I only filed stuff in court when I really felt that I had to. He was filing for sport.
How long did the divorce go on for?
Well, it took 3 years from date of separation to when we were officially divorced. But you still fight in court over everything.
You got the kids. The kids at this point are what?
We had split custody. Except
12 and 15?
No, they're 9 and 12 when we separated.
Yeah, so 12
right.
and 15 3 years later?
No, so things started going south 3 years before that. But when we actually separated, date of separation and when you're fully divorced, it's the same thing. He's out of the house and it's, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
Separated/divorced.
It's a celebration day.
Oh, I framed my divorce decree.
So what did
But there was still the fighting going on.
Was it with custody, money? What was it?
It was custody. It was money. It was however he can try to screw me. It was any which way. It was mostly money stuff. There was a little bit of custody stuff because he was negligent with our children.
And that's the problem. That's the big problem I have with divorce is when the children start to become collateral damage.
Right. It's true. And listen, they're bouncing back and it's very hard for them. My children were very resentful and I don't blame them. They're now pretty much adults. They're 25 and 22. It took many, many years for them to sort of get it.
Resentful towards both of you or?
Sadly, just me.
Yeah.
Because of the stuff that he was feeding.
Filling up.
I assume.
Believe me, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so
Believe me, I know.
Look, I would never want to take away their father. But, when they were younger and he was negligent, I ended up for about a year, I got more custody because I proved that he was negligent.
That's a goal of my ex is to take my children away.
Well, it was.
I'm
it was the goal of mine.
desensitized to this now. You know what I mean? In a sense, but the only thing you're
never going to stop
hurting the children, right?
You're never going to stop fighting.
No, we honestly we don't. You'll never know.
No, fighting for your children. I mean.
Oh, me?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You got that right.
I know.
Let me tell you something. You got that right. You might as well just.
Now the after effects.
I know a guy who went through a divorce and hasn't talked to his kids in 4 years.
Yeah, I know the same guy.
He hasn't talked to his kids, or his kids haven't spoken to him, or both.
Kids haven't spoken to him in 4 years now.
It's a tragic situation.
I hate that.
Yep.
That bothers me.
Because they got poisoned.
That bothers me almost more when it
I know,
happens to a man.
Put it this way, I know
God.
the guy very well and talk to him all the time and haven't talked to his kids.
Are the
Same
children
guy I know.
older?
Yeah. Yep. They're in their 20s.
Okay, so they have a mind of their own.
And one day they're going to wake up. And it seems like your kids are waking up.
Yes,
Okay.
I think my kids have awoken.
I think one day they're going to wake up and they're going to, and it's almost going to be more damaging to them to go, oh my God, I was wrong about this. I misread this whole situation when they become adults.
Well, I had that situation with my older son when I was still living in Pennsylvania. I had a whole conversation with him, and I said, "Listen, I can show you all this stuff. I still had all of my divorce paperwork, 4 huge plastic bins of paperwork." I said, "Do you want to go through the paperwork? Do you want to see what your father was doing? You can see it. It's in black and white from judges, from masters, from people in court." So he always said no. I offered it many times. He finally said yes. I said, you do? And he said, yeah. I said, great. Come over for dinner next week, and I'm going to sort it all out. I'm going to pull out like the super important stuff, put it in date order, so you see when it started and when it ended, and you'll see. He went through 3/4 of it, and he's like, oh, my God. I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get back on your feet after your divorce?
Financially or otherwise?
Emotionally,
financially.
Emotionally, I was fine the day after he left. He left and he filed.
Right.
I would say literally like a week later, I took the initial blow, took some time, but I would say a week later, I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like now I can actually like be a person and be me and be myself.
And live your life.
He didn't fight for our marriage. And that was another big part of it. Because when he had come to me, when he thought I was cheating on him, and he approached me about it, and we talked about it, and then he decided he was leaving. Like there was nothing in between.
Oh, wow.
So did he really love me? I don't think so.
If you're ready to give something up that quickly.
Say, let's go to counseling. You know what? Take me away for a weekend. Let's figure out why we were in love in the first place, if we really were.
That could have been like his excuse to get out of it, maybe.
Could be.
Maybe he wanted to get out, and so he drummed up some kind of story and said, that's why I'm going to go.
Actually,
Right.
there are many stories about
He had
people-
reason for the story, and I get it. But he didn't have, but going through all the motions of putting a mobile GPS thing in my car, tracking the computer, hiring a private investigator to set me up, who I ended up busting. And I'm like, what?
That was done to
And
me.
then lied about,
That was done to me.
And then lied about having pictures of me kissing some guy. I'm like, well, where are the pictures? He doesn't have them.
Yeah, of course not.
Right.
Did you ever hold any of the bad feelings you had about this divorce against your after dating effect? Somebody always pays the price. Somebody always does time for somebody else's crime.
The trust issues.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that on the little note on the notes. Yeah, I definitely have trust issues. I mean, I think I'm better now than I was. But I still have some trust issues because, you marry this person who says they're going to love you forever, through thick and thin, forever, forever and ever. And then they decide that, something goes wrong and they decide just to walk out the door and not to, marriage is hard. Relationships are hard. If you don't want to work on it and you're just going to bail and walk out the door, like, why would I want to get involved with someone else and deal with that again? I'm not saying it would happen again. I don't hold each guy. I don't say every guy's going to be like him. Absolutely not.
But
I
you're
don't do that.
almost like scarred, right?
Oh,
You're almost
yeah.
scarred from the divorce, and
Sure.
and like Kevin said, you may someone's got to pay for some people pay for other people's crimes,
Right.
so
I don't-
you're going to have those trust issues.
I don't think that other guys are necessarily going to be like him. In fact, every guy I've ever met has been nothing like him.
But if something rears its head with somebody else who you're in a dating relationship, even if it's untrue, even if it's only something that you see, you're going to go, boom. Uh-oh.
I'm very quick to say no, thank you. I am because I don't have the time or patience. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. Like I've become impatient with kind of dating and everything else. I mean, I've been divorced for 14 years.
Have you ever come close to or ever thought about maybe doing it again?
Getting married again? Initially I always said no. And then now I feel like if I was dating someone in a serious relationship and they wanted to get married, it was important to them, then I would do it. Or I would consider it, I should say.
Well, you know
But
better.
it's not something I need.
You know better than anybody. Marriage, at its core basis thing, is a legal contract between two people. Mm-hmm. All right, but it says nothing in there about love. It says nothing in there
Right.
about fidelity or anything like that. Though all those things can be had without that bond. And listen,
Right.
Without the piece of paper.
I'm not telling you not to get married. I'm not telling anybody not to get married. But
Right.
think about, if you need that contract, or I'm old fashioned where I believe that if you're planning on having children, it should be. You can call me a dinosaur. You can call me whatever you want. It
Oh,
should
no,
be
I
a,
believe that too.
a married
Absolutely.
mother and father. And I know
Well,
what
see,
happens.
I was a virgin until I got married too.
Yeah. You're still a virgin.
No, twice.
One of them was with Mike.
You know what though? Just to get back, we were raised differently. We were raised, to get into marriage. You live your life, you get into marriage, you have kids, and it wasn't. I didn't even know about divorce. I had no, as a kid. Now it's different. You're raised and you're told to get married, then you got to get divorced. It's just the way it is now.
Right.
Get married, get divorced, and like
It's so
it was
easy.
never heard of in my family.
It's
like,
too
right.
easy.
Well, my parents were divorced when I was
That's
7 or 8
that's the way
years
kids
old.
nowadays are taught. You know what? Just get married and get divorced, and you get settlement. If it's a wealthy person, that's how. I don't know.
There is a sanctity that to marriage that should be taken a little bit more serious than it is today.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% I would get married, and it
not-
it affects
You would get married again?
I would. It affects everything, even in my relationship now. It does.
Didn't he just say 10 minutes ago, absolutely not, never getting married again?
No, that's just I'm being honest now.
No,
Because,
but I whispered in his ear. I said, Mike, the first time's for
No,
love.
I'm
the second
serious.
time's for
It
money.
affects
So,
it
you know,
affects
if he
everything.
finds a rich
in-
girl, he's going to get married.
Going through what I'm going, it affects everything in a relationship I'm in now. It's very difficult, and it's difficult to be around me when in reference to that. This person it instilled in old school and dedication and loyalty. So 100% I would, but it's so difficult to make that next step when you have this continuing.
Well, it's a good distraction.
Well, you also have to bring that
and
into
the person,
your,
right? The
you have
person
to bring that into the new relationship.
100%. It's there. You know what I mean?
Oh, by the
Would
way,
I marry this?
I'm going through this, so you got to deal with this
100%.
baggage as well.
100% I would marry this
We all
person
have,
that I'm with right now.
we all
But
have baggage.
for some reason, whatever it is, I want. It's every single thing I do. It's it's robotic. Do it this way. The courts say do it this way. You can't do this and you can't do that. You can't. I'm just like, it's ridiculous.
It's almost like common
listen,
sense has
right?
gone
Just
out
leave
the
me.
window.
Listen,
Yeah, exactly.
Go live your life. Listen. In May, bring me back on this show, and I will sing, and I will give you. I will give you. Yeah. See what you did to me? Listen,
didn't do a thing.
in May of 2023, bring me back on this show. I guarantee. I'll
Why? What happens in May?
there's things change.
The hurricane finally passes through.
Yeah,
Hurricane number one?
I finally pushed through all these, courts and
FEMA gets involved and they start getting. all
I'm
the-
telling you, I will sing in May. Believe me. Bring me back on here. I'll give you a divorce story. Trust me.
So, how has it given you strength? Because I'm a big believer that anytime you're going through some sort of trauma or trial or adversity
Or suffering.
or suffering, initially you see it as a detriment to your personality. Initially you see it as something that you don't put up on a pedestal. Where now, the damage that we've went through, I use that as my strength, and I'll actually lead with that. Years I would tell people I would never tell people I'm a retired police officer because I was in a shooting and I had to retire. But now I'm like, oh, I'm a retired police officer, and they ask me, well, you're kind of young to retire. Well, yeah, because I was in a police shooting. So I lead with it, because it's my strength now. Do you ever
Right.
see that as what you went through in divorce?
Oh yeah, I mean it absolutely. I think it made me. It actually upped my self-esteem. I don't know how much self-esteem I had when I was married. To tell you the truth, I don't really know. I don't kind of remember. I feel like it was so long ago. It was like a different lifetime. I don't remember the time that I was married. I remember having my children. But beyond that, and when they were little and stuff, we did with them when little. But beyond that, I don't remember my marriage back then. Yes, I think I'm much stronger. I mean, I've always been relatively independent, but I'm much more independent now. And I feel like it's definitely made me stronger. It's made me more aware also, just of me and what I can actually do. I mean, the stories that I could tell you, people will come up to me all the time, not understanding how I'm not in an asylum, I'm not an alcoholic, or I'm not a drug addict. Because they're like, I don't understand how you go through all this and you're not like committed. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
And that's powerful. She is honestly, the respect is there. She's very powerful. She's very independent. I mean, I see it, and the way she speaks, and I don't know. It's I got to give you a lot of credit. I'm serious. And I'm not. It's not easy to do this.
Hey, Kev, it's his boss.
I know.
We'll just, let them talk. Me and you will talk. So, Kev, what do you think about the...
He's so mad.
No,
you're just upset. You're upset that I have a bigger picture than you.
No.
If you saw somebody in your life or in your circle heading down the path of divorce, from what you've learned, what do you think you'd tell them?
Oh, a lot of things.
Would you tell them not to get married?
I've always said, even after I got divorced, I'm not an advocate of divorce. I'm just not.
I'm not an advocate of marriage either. But
right.
You do what you want
Right.
to do.
That's right. There you go. I'm right. I think every marriage is different also. But if you're not being loved and you're not being supported and you're not feeling like you're a partnership, my ex and I were not partners. We just weren't. We were such yin and yang. People used to laugh at us all the time. They'd be like, "You guys are so opposite." We're like, "Yeah, well, opposites attract," and
Yeah.
well, they were too far apart.
Go with the
clearly.
old adages.
Right.
Opposites attract.
That's right. Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
We're coming to the end of this thing, Marcy. And I ask everybody the same question as we're at the end of the show. You've gone through all these different things. You've gone through the suffering of divorce. What do you think it's taught you?
How strong I truly am. How I can really get through anything. I mean, I think mostly I was fighting with all this stuff for the benefit of my children. They were really my primary focus. Yep. I wasn't really focused on me very much, and had people telling me constantly, you really need to focus on you, and you need to get you need to get your shit together, and be strong for yourself, not just for your kids. But I learned how strong I am. I really did. I mean, there was a lot, and I came through on the other side, and I'm independent. I have a good job. I have a great company I'm working for, and I'm happy. I'm not dating anyone. I'm single, and I'm happy that way too.
So if anybody out there is looking,
we're developing a new app. It's similar to Tinder. It's the Suffering Podcast dating
right,
app.
There you go. Right.
There's like Mike on there, and
all of us suffering people can all right. That's right.
No, I have my own app, the Palm app.
Which we help you develop.
You did.
Gives you 5 chins.
That's not nice. The guy I'm nice enough to come in.
The resilience next year is there's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of changes in my life.
It's going to go from a category 5 to a category 2.
I was over 5 a few times. They weren't really nice.
Marcy, I appreciate you coming in there. Mike,
it was great.
I appreciate you coming in to be the special guest host. But Marcy, you talked about a subject that very few people want to talk about. And we do appreciate your honesty, because with a 50% divorce rate, 1 out of 2 people that hear this show are going through it, went through it, or about to go through it.
Talk about it. Talk about it to anybody. I mean, that helps too. I think if I could give people advice, I've given lots and lots of people advice, and I've counseled a lot of people. And just, kind of guided them through the process of, what you need to do, and what, especially in Pennsylvania, because I was representing myself, so I could go through the court system and whatever. But it's best to talk about it, and talk about it to people that are divorced, and talk about it that worked on their marriage. If you talk to lots of different people, you're going to get lots of different opinions, but that might help you make your opinion for yourself, what's best for you.
Like you said before, you don't advocate divorce. But if you're not happy and everybody's miserable, at least do something to help your marriage. I mean,
not everybody.
Go to marriage counseling or do something.
Well, that's the thing. And if you do all those things and you're still not happy, my ex-husband and I didn't fight one day, ever. We never fought.
That's a problem.
Correct.
That's a problem.
Because fighting works out problems. You have a problem.
It does, and it gets it out. And that's much better than holding it in.
I won't fight with someone that I don't care about.
Then there's makeup sex.
Yeah,
which is always good for marriage.
You're right. But if you don't fight, then you can't have the makeup sex. So what's the point?
Do you have anything you want to throw out there for a plug?
I'm going to throw out 3 acres, of course.
3 acres.
Right.
3 acres.
3 acres.
3 acres. Right. 3 acres.
3 acres.
You sound like
I was about to say plug this.
Acres.
This.
It's ACEES. 3 acres.
You're gonna appreciate. You're gonna appreciate me soon. May of 2023.
Oh my God, we're all marking our calendars, Mike. What's the date?
What's
the date? Is there a date?
I want Andrew to do like that thing, like the app with me singing.
The ding?
Oh, I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna tell the real story what happened.
What's this Andrew thing? I do all that stuff.
You do it?
Yes, I do it.
All right, then you put that thing up there.
The thing. Which thing? The first thing or the second thing? Marcy, thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This
was
fun.
Thanks for being so open and honest.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
next time me and Kevin come down to 3 acres, all 4 of us will sit around and.
I would love that.
Check out 3 Acres. I know it's on Instagram.
It's on Instagram. Yeah, you can go to our website, 3acresjc.com.
Okay.
And you know what? I have to tell you, before we went there the other day, I went on the website. The website doesn't even do that place justice.
It does not.
It really doesn't.
It does not. And when we tell people that all the time when we schedule tours, we say, you know what, like our pictures are great on there, but it doesn't do it justice. You have to come see it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Your fantastic security detail that you have working.
That's right, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Hold on. I do have to.
Nobby and
besides, I do have to give the most important person that got me there and pretty much changed my life.
You're welcome.
I'm not even.
You're welcome.
No, it's
not me.
one of my bosses. It's Nicky Russo. That we grew up together. We worked together, and if it wasn't for that man, I would have never been in this position where I am now and be able to get my life back. Yeah. So I have to really. That is a shout out, the plug that I wanted to plug in. All right.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Divorce with Marcy Cowen. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned today. Attraction comes in many forms. Hindsight is always 20/20. Mike learned the word interject today. There's always collateral damage in divorce. We all want a partner, but most importantly, talk about it and ask for help.
Yep.
That's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Don't forget you can always listen before you watch. All our episodes air on Sunday morning. Follow me on Instagram at Real Kevin Donaldson. Follow Mike at Mike_Falaise. Follow the Suffering Podcast. Also TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those social media things.
I think Mike's on Instagram as Fortune Mike.
No. I have a 5'4".
Matches his 5 head.
See what I say, Marcy?
That's going to do it
Talk
for
about
this
foreheads.
episode. We'll see you next time.
It's a 12 head.